Welcome, friends, to the Soul Talk podcast, a show where we explore and uncover the path to the heart, amplifying your conscience. Join me as we meet incredible souls who are in this journey and learn from their experience and different methods that will make you vibrate your heart. Let's get into it. Hello, everyone. This is Monica Ramirez, Warrior of Love, and thank you for being in Soul Talk. And today we have a very special being that I've been following for a while, and you should too. And her name is Celia Fenn, and she's connecting with us from South Africa. And let me tell you a little bit who she is before we start making questions about many things that I want to ask her. Celia Fenn is an international writer, channeler, creative, and mentor who works with Angelic and Galactic Families, Archangel Michael, Elohim Angels, and Royal Star Lions. Since the early years in the 21st century, she has traveled globally and worked online channel and as a medium with individuals and also with groups. She offers online webinar courses, spiritual evolution, and transformation. Her focus is to help people to understand what is happening in the earth and developing the resilience, power, and creativity to create serene and successful life. She shared Archangel Michael's teachings of her sacred years of the sacred planets to help Lightworkers to create a spiritual framework for the daily lives and the daily journey. She offers courses, consultations, and suitable for both masters and beginners. Celia, thank you so much for accepting my invitation in Soul Talk. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Monica. It's lovely to be here.
And like we were talking before cameras, one of the persons that started explaining what was happening in the Lion's Gate, it was you. So, and I have received that question many times from many people. What is the Lion's Gate? And it is how better to put it in the person that actually channeled this information, that it was very important for both of us, everybody, because actually it affects all of us.
Yeah, in recent years, the Lion's Gate has become widely recognized, I think, is the word, as a very important moment in the year, what I call the sacred year, because it opens the gateway, as it is, to the next spiral of time and space, or spiral of adventure or narrative, whatever you want to call it, that is our journey on the earth. So I started working with the Lion's Gate in about 2004, 3, somewhere around there. And when I first started working with it, I didn't really understand the full importance of the Lion's Gate moment. It just was I channeled it from Archangel Michael, and he said to me, Lion's Gate is important, and the 8-8 is important. And I remember back then a lot of people being quite resistant and saying, oh, what is this 8-8 thing? What is the Lion's Gate? But we went on working with it over the years, until very recently, Archangel Michael then gave me this full framework, which he called the sacred year. And he said to me, we talk a lot about living in the moment and living in the present and 0 point and all those concepts, which are true. We do have to live in this time and space. But when we are in the material realm, we do need a way to structure the days. We can't just sit around being in the moment. We still have to get up and go to work and do those kinds of things. And he says that the sacred year is a structure which is both galactic and interstellar, because it's based on the movement of the earth in relation to the galactic center and in relation to the stars and the planets. So we track what we call the 8 points of light in the sacred year, which are 8 moments of what would we call it? Intense spiritual energy. We call them portals, vortexes, whatever you like, but they are made up of what I call the 4 time gates and the 4 solar gates. So the 4 time gates begin with the Lion's Gate, time, space, portal energy, the Lion's Gate on the 8th of August. The second one is the Scorpio Gate on the 11th of November, which is the 11/11, which is coming up shortly. The third one is the 2/2, which is at the 2nd of February, is the Aquarius Gate, third one. And the fourth one is in May. It's the 5/5, which is the Taurus Gate. So those are the 4 important moments. And then we have the 2 equinoxes and the 2 solstices, which you add in there. And then you get a spiral of energy moving from one to the other. And at each point, you are aware of incoming light codes, shifts of energy, changes, and you can align your own particular journey with what you're experiencing at that time. And of course, you also have the monthly, like the 10/10, the 9/9, whatever. So these moments are also minor portals. And then you have full moon and you have the new moon. So altogether in your sacred year, there are about, I think I added it up to about 30, 38 or somewhere around there, 34 different moments when you can connect with the energies and the movements of the earth in relation to the galaxy. So they're very powerful moments for you simply to align yourself. So you're not just floating around in no time, unless you want to, of course. But you can also be in that space where the sacred year is holding you on a spiral of time that will bring you back to the Lion's Gate again. But as you move through the Lion's Gate, you move to a higher level because you're not going around in circles. You're spiraling upward in this pathway of evolution. So you have what we use as a symbol is the 8-pointed star, which has the 8 points for the sacred year. And it's a very beautiful way of connecting with the movement, the concepts, the light codes, your soul, your journey through the galaxy, all those things. So when we talk about the Lion's Gate now, a lot of people are beginning to understand that the Lion's Gate is this important moment when we initiate something new, but also hoping that people are beginning to understand that it's also the beginning of a spiral of portals and gates and vortexes that we can work with to raise our consciousness and connect with higher consciousness. So I hope that answers your question.
I think so, but at the same time, I understand what is a portal because I have passed through that, but not many people know what is a portal. So can you explain it a little bit more, elaborate a little more?
Yeah, from my perspective, a portal is a moment when, in terms of the sacred year, 2 celestial or more celestial bodies align to create an energy field that is very powerful. So at the Lion's Gate, you have alignments of in the house of Leo, the sign of Leo. The sign of Leo is ruled by the sun. So the sun is very important. I'm trying to think of what the star is.
It was
not Antares, the other one. Anyway, Sirius is important because Sirius is aligned with the sun in the morning. So you have this powerful energy. We call it the time of the 2 suns. So you have the sun rising and then Sirius right next to it in the sky. So we have all these powerful energies coming from Sirius, which is very closely concerned with the evolution of the earth and humanity, plus the solar energies. So you have the white sun and the blue sun rising in the sky and all these powerful light codes coming from the sun and from the galactic center and from Sirius. And the same thing happens when we move into the Scorpio Gate, which is the next one that's coming up. The sun in Scorpio, and then all these other energies going on, creating a confluence of energies and an inflow of light codes. And of course, with the Scorpio Gate, we also have 2 eclipses. because eclipses are also portals for energy, because you have the sun or the moon being covered. And so it's like a zero moment where you can reset the energies. So with the Scorpio gate coming up, we have partial solar eclipse first in Scorpio. And then we have, I think 2 weeks later, we have a total lunar eclipse in Taurus happening. Just, I think it's about 3 days before, or was it after? The 11/11. I think it's before. I think it's the 8th. And then, and then the 11/11 is 3 days later. So very powerful energies coming in at that time. So you have portal energies, you have an eclipse portal, and people can understand that they start feeling a bit strange because of the intensity of the energies. And that's something people are noticing a lot now, how intense the energies are, because we're in a very powerful shift at the moment. It's ongoing, has been going since the 22nd of February. We started with this expansion and movement. And I remember saying to the people I was working with, my group, we're being accelerated, we're being pushed in this year to move as far and as fast as we can. And I'm sure everyone's noticed that. It just felt like this tremendous push. But now we have reached this moment where those of us who are ready are stepping into this most amazing higher dimensional consciousness that enables us to live in abundance and peace, what I call simple joy, even while there is this tremendous chaos that's going on at the lower levels. So those of us who've been doing our work and going with the flow and integrating the light codes at these different gates are feeling this moment of, I'm going to call it achievement, or arriving at this new level, where we're going to step into such a new and different way of being and existing and creating on the earth. So the sacred here and the portals and the stargates, they all have a significance in terms of this ongoing journey of evolution and transformation.
I heard from one of your interviews that you used to be an astrologer, or you are an astrologer. And I just have basic concepts of astrology.
Now, I'm not an astrologer per se. I have studied astrology, but I do use it quite intensively, but not as an astrologer would, because I use it more to look at how the soul is connected to the stars and how the stars influence the soul, because it's all light and energy and whatever. So I wouldn't call myself an astrologer. I'm not a qualified one, but I do know a lot about how it works.
That was my question about, like, the people that right now that we're going to the portal of the Scorpio. The people that are Scorpios are going to be affected in different way than someone from Cancer or Leo or other sign?
Yeah, I think so. Because, for example, at the Lion's Gate, people who are Cancer and Leo, of course, are going to feel it more intensely, because their sun is being affected by the energies. And so when we go into Scorpio, people who are Scorpio are also going to feel it more intensely, because their sun is in Scorpio. But if you look at it from classic astrological viewpoint, then we all have planets in other houses too. So it would depend, for example, if you're going into the Scorpio gate and you have 5 planets in Scorpio, well then yes, you're going to have a bit of an intense ride. But if you just have like 1 planet in Scorpio, then it probably won't be so intense. So that's the traditional way of looking at it astrologically. But for me, it would depend on what that particular soul energy was. If your sun is significant to your soul purpose. Because one of the things I do with Archangel Michael is to look at people's soul, to do soul reading, to see what is their purpose, what is their mission on the earth, and how does it tie in with their daily life and how they're living. So it is very important to use this basic astrology to understand those different aspects of the soul journey.
Yes, I understand that. I am a Scorpio, that's why and ascended Scorpio.
Okay.
So
what is your date of birth? What is the day of your birthday?
27th of October.
Okay, so you're an early.
But
I think you're going to be feeling it because the 27th of October is, as I recall, I think the first eclipse is on the 25th of October, isn't it? So it's just like 2 days before your birthday. So I think you're going to be feeling quite an intense shift. But what I'm feeling for you is probably what I'm also feeling is it's going to be a shift of consciousness rather than physical shift. And when I say that, I mean part of what's happening at the Scorpio gate shift is affecting the brain. Okay, so we're finding that this is where I work with the dolphins and the whales, because the dolphins are helping us to understand that as we move into higher consciousness, the brainwave patterns change. So we move from what we call beta consciousness, which is ordinary everyday consciousness, which is nice and comfortable, into alpha, which is the consciousness you experience when you're meditating. So you know that lovely kind of warm, peaceful feeling, which is nice, but it's very difficult to go to the supermarket or clean the house or whatever when you're in that state of mind, because you feel like you want to sleep. You feel like you just want to relax. I find myself sitting a lot, kind of staring into space because that's all I want to do. And I do understand that this is part of the transformation that we're going through. We're moving into waking alpha. This is only step 1. Okay, there's step 2, but it starts with waking alpha. So it means that we're going to have to be able to conduct our lives in this sort of state of semi-meditation. Okay, and the dolphins do this. They're in alpha all the time. So they're coming in their spirit forms as the golden dolphin angels to help us to raise our consciousness and to learn how to do this. Now, what I'm doing at the moment is dropping between them because I cannot do the supermarket in alpha. I'm sorry. I have to go back down to beta. So I can do the supermarket and go home and then I can be back in alpha. So I'm finding a lot of movement between these two levels and feeling a bit kind of wonky. I don't know what the word is, sort of feeling, sometimes I get up and I lose my balance and whatever, because the brain is having difficulty dealing with all these holographics. But yeah, but this is only the first step, because the second step is where the whales come in, because they're helping us to shift into galactic consciousness, which is a very expanded consciousness. It's an awareness of the cosmos and the galaxy at the same time as you're doing your shopping in the supermarket. It gets wild because you are in what we would call theta. Is a state of the brain waves called theta, which is a much deeper kind of state. And when the human brain goes into theta, you're actually asleep. You can even do surgery on people who are in theta because they are at such a deep level that they don't feel the no awareness of the pain in the body. Now, I'm not saying we're going to shift into theta like tomorrow, but I think ultimately our evolution is taking us in that direction. So what that means is that some of us are feeling sometimes completely zoned out. You just feel completely expanded. Now, the whales, when they work with this consciousness, they use it to create, to manifest, and to work with the galactic hologram. Mm-hmm. So just as we have a personal hologram and a solar hologram, we have a galactic hologram. So when you go into theta and you move into the state, you're going into the galactic awareness. Okay. You definitely can't go shopping at the supermarket while you're in that state. Okay. So, what we're learning to do again, I find what is useful is to feel where I am. When I wake up in the morning, where am I? I'm usually not in 3D, 5D, whatever. I have to bring myself down. And then sometimes during the day, I have to say to myself, ground yourself. You're too far out. Okay, come into your body, ground yourself. And sometimes the visualization that Archangel Michael gave me was to imagine that you're in an elevator and you press the number you want to be at. So if you want to be in the 5th dimension, you just press 5, and that tells your higher self you need to be in the 5th dimension in order to function. You know, if you want to go up, you can press. I use the dimensions: 5th dimension, 6th dimension, 7th dimension. Press the number you want to go to tell your higher consciousness where you need to be. So what I call it is mastery of energy, because we can no longer just, we can go with the flow, but we can't just flop around hoping that we're going to somehow land where we need to be. We have to be aware of our energy and aware of where it is and how we're working with it. So to get back to where we started, we come up to the Scorpio gate and our energy is intense and all sorts of things are happening. Then we have to be able to say, okay, where am I? What dimension am I on? And of course, the elevator is in your heart. Okay, because that is where you ground yourself and center yourself, and everything must link back to your heart. So what Archangel Michael also pointed out to me was that the dolphins and the whales are both conscious breathers. They breathe with awareness and well, they have to, because they have to come up for air in order to survive. So we have to learn how to breathe consciously so that we can navigate these energies and navigate the different dimensions that we're working with. So breathing is so important for grounding yourself, for relaxing your body, for being in your body, but also for expanding your consciousness when you need to.
Well, basically what I understand is how I use the theta level. I work a lot with my clients in that level. I like that, and I call it the operative system of the brain, because it's between our conscious and our subconscious.
Yes.
And that's where you can disintegrate many of the programs that we have, and you can change and so forth. So when we're in that, we're going to be able to be completely conscious of our subconscious at the same time.
Absolutely. I call it the galactic consciousness, whatever you want to call it. It's just you're aware of everything that's happening in your consciousness. It's not that you cut off from anything. It's there for you. But I think what's happening to a lot of people who are not aware is that they think they're going crazy because all these things start coming up. And, you know, I found in our community, we have been doing a lot of healing and releasing things and all sorts. But then you find stuff keeps coming up again and again, is because we haven't learned how to release it. So it's released. Because when the consciousness becomes expanded, it comes up again, you know, and again, because we don't understand what we're doing is expanding and learning how to manage what comes up. You know, I don't think we're ever going to release it entirely. I think we release the charge of energy that might be bothering us, but we have access to all of our being, whether it's past, future, present, it's all there. in our different layers of consciousness. And to be a master of energy and consciousness is to have access to all those different layers in I wouldn't call it, let's call it a conscious way, but in a way that doesn't disturb you, so that you can look at it and say, okay, that was this and this is that, and I'm managing it and I can move with it and flow with it in a very, the word I use is serene, to be centered in your heart and to be in a serene and graceful state, so that you are in your angelic or master self, and not being buffeted all over by what's going on the lower levels. So it's a challenge, but it's also such a wonderful blessing that is being offered to us at this time. It's so exciting and so challenging at the same time. It's difficult. I'm not going to lie to anyone and say, oh, it's easy. It's not. It's a very potent step in our evolution.
It is basically to learn to be the observer 24 hours a day.
Absolutely.
It's not
important. And just to watch, when you step back and you just watch, and you have to be careful that you're not judging, you're just watching. Just watching what's going on and deciding for yourself whether you want to be part of something or not. Whether you want to step into it or step around it or whatever, so that but you're aware, you're not just falling into situations. So that the unaware person or the person who's unawake finds themselves in situations and they think, how did I get here? What happened? Whereas an awakened person says, I know how I got here and I can get out of here even faster if I need to. You're just so aware of what you're creating in your life and what you need to uncreate because it's not working for you. Because previously in my life, I would get into situations and then I would struggle to try and resolve them, because I felt that it was up to me to resolve these situations. And now I realize I'm simply looking at a situation, deciding if it works for me or not. And if it doesn't, I can step out of it. I don't have to resolve anything, because I'm simply experiencing and I can choose what I experience, which is a quite different concept to struggling and trying to sort things out and fix things and heal things, and which very often you can't do.
That takes me to a question that I always have seen when the problem persists. Let's say I work self-doubt, and then I work it. I think I already mastered it, and then later on again comes another test, and it's like, okay, I thought I did. What happened? But how I interpreted it was like there's layers over layers over layers.
Yeah.
And more that you go more profound, you're going to encounter another test, more deep, something that is going to be way more deep in that same experience, in the same length, but it's going to be different because it's going to be, you cannot be tested in the same level as you were before.
Absolutely. And if you have passed your test before, then you know that you can pass this one as well. And I certainly feel that life is intense. It's a journey. And one of the things I've been thinking about the last few days is life is meant to be intense. We're meant to have intense experiences and adventures on earth, but we became very tame and complacent when we were in this structure. So we find intense experiences a bit disturbing. But when we understand how to manage them, then we can manage them. We can be okay with what happens. When I first started out on my journey, I knew in my soul that I was here to bring love to the earth. And I believe that if I poured enough love into something, I could fix it and heal it and resolve it. And I had to learn very much the hard way that is not true, because people who are broken have to fix themselves. You can't fix them just by loving them. So I learned to make the adjustment. It was a big soul adjustment, that I couldn't fix everything by loving it. I needed to step back and allow people to fix themselves. And that was the lesson I learned with that was so traumatic. It's still sometimes is difficult for me to think about it, but it was a deep soul lesson that I needed to understand what love is. And it isn't just a band-aid that you put on things and fix them. It's actually respecting the journey of each person and allowing them to make their own choices as to what they want to do or not do.
Yes, and it can be very, very painful.
Yeah.
I have encountered that lesson, and it is very, very hard. And because sometimes you just have to just be the observer, and that's it. You can't do anything about it. People have to heal.
No, especially when it's people close to you, like your family, and you feel that you owe them something, or you have to do this or whatever, and being able to step out of it and say, no, because I often say to clients, your mother and your father and your sister and your brother, okay, they're in your life now, but you've had many, many families. So are you going to carry them all with you for the rest of eternity? Or do you understand that it's a fluid thing? As you become an adult, you don't need that attachment so much, and you go out and you form different kind of family, community, whatever, that is more in alignment with your heart and your soul. But as you learn that, it's a very deep initiation that we have to pass through. And many light workers go through that having to let go.
And also because there are two in our communities, also they are very afraid of the shadow, and they don't even want to talk about it, about the shadow, when the shadow is part of them. And that's the part they do not want it to see, because they do understand.
I think you can't be a light worker and you can't manage your energy unless you understand what shadow is, so you can see it when it's coming. And the only way you can see it coming and you can recognize it and prevent it from hooking into you and activating your shadow is if you understand what your shadow is and how it functions. And I recognized in my process that this need to heal everybody came from also a need to control. That I wanted my environment to be all pretty and nice, and everybody had to line up and be pretty and nice and loving, because I said so. And of course they had their own ideas. So I had to learn to understand that if I wanted my environment to be beautiful and harmonious and loving, it was up to me to create it from within me, and not to expect everyone around me to kind of fall into it. And I think to see that as a control issue, and it was a control issue, is to understand that I have it in me. I just need to control people, and to, you will heal, you will be loving, because I need you to be. And then to just release them and say, okay, be what you are on your own journey, which is where you take that step into mastery, mastering yourself, because you are resisting that need to control, and just saying, I can control myself and my reactions and what I do, but I don't need to control people around me. They must make their own choices.
Because then in that way, when we're trying to control, I also learned that one. It is, well, working on that one, I can say I already totally understood that. But trying to understand that one, that's where we get confused what is really unconditional love. Unconditional love is not about trying to control someone.
No.
It's loving that person how it is, or just moving around. And that's where the confusion with many couples are right now. Because they think, oh, I can't change these things. We think that only teenagers have that mentality. No, also adults, they have the same concept.
Yeah, and I recognize also as not just wanting to change someone, it's having expectations of what that person needs to be, and having your expectations not met, because my expectations were everybody, you get married and you have family and expect them to be a certain way, and you find that their expectations were quite different. And I often thought if we had sat down and talked about our expectations, probably it would have been different. But, so many years in, your expectations are not being met and you're trying to control people into meeting them, so we've moved past that. Now we're in a space where we can see people as they are and decide whether we want to be in a relationship with them or not, intimate relationship, and not needing to change them and not needing them to be different. And also them not needing to change us or accepting us the way we are. And again, that goes back to, do you accept yourself the way you are? Are you okay with yourself as you are, not needing yourself to be different?
Yes, because at the same time, whatever experience we're living in the outside, it is things that we have to, they're presenting themselves because we need to change them. We need to work at it with ourselves. We can be changing.
Yeah, until we reach this level where we, as you said, we're simply observing what's happening and not feeling responsible for changing it. Or, look, we're creating it. But what is important to understand is that you change things in the world and around you on the inside by working with consciousness. It isn't about demanding people change or demanding they do things your way or whatever. It's by changing it and seeing it differently within yourself, because you're dreaming and creating these holograms or visions that manifest into reality. So what we're dealing with, let's say in the old earth, the chaos and the aggression, is a very old dream that we all held at one point, and now it's disintegrating. And the onus is on us to dream a different dream so that we can create something different. And that takes time. So what is happening is all the light workers come together and the new children come in and everyone's holding a new dream. And soon, right, as we're going through this transformation, that dream starts to manifest into reality. I know for myself, where I'm living in my new earth paradise. It's a bit kind of intense to live so close to nature. But I'm understanding that I'm being offered the opportunity to live at what would you call it, a higher level, different level, and to move between a very close connection to nature and then back down into the shopping mall and the supermarket and whatever, and I can go back to so I'm flowing between them. And learning to live in this multidimensional way, because I'm moving between these different levels. And I think as more and more of us are doing this, we're creating a pattern for the earth that is going to become the pattern for the earth itself in the years that come.
I remember many years back, about 7 years, I was an activist. And, I went to protest and so forth. Until one day it hit me. It's like, I'm not changing anything. This is pointless. If I really wanted to change the world, I have to start from me. Yeah. And I can help others they change themselves, so they can see they can change themselves. But I can't change the collective just because I go into a protest. That doesn't change anything.
Usually what happens, with protests is you're engaging in, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with protests. If you want to protest, but you're engaging in duality. Like we're right, you're wrong, and we're going to make a lot of noise about it, and it becomes aggressive and becomes violent and whatever. So you are really just integrating or emphasizing the old energy. You're not actually creating something that's new. You're just being pulled into this whirlpool of old energies and violence and negativity. But as I say, for some people, I know there are young people who feel very strongly that they have to be out in the world and protesting. And I would say, then do it. But do it in a conscious way. Understand what you're doing. Understand where your energy is going and what you're contributing to while you're doing it.
I did stop because I did saw it that if I wanted to create a change, I have to change me, and I can teach others that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you mentioned, it's the choice of everybody, and all the choices are acceptable. It's their choice.
But I think people don't understand, when they say I must change myself, they think, oh, well, I must be more peaceful and more loving and more creative. But it's not just that. It's that when you make those changes, your whole energy field changes. And you then start to affect other people. So that when you walk into a room or the supermarket, we're back there again, people around you start to feel, is something going on here? I know when I'm on a good day and I'm rolling, people stop in the supermarket and talk to me and say things to me. And, I'm going like, really? And then I understand that they are responding to my energy. They're feeling something that attracts them and they want to talk to me.
And their emotions in that moment change at the same time.
Yeah, they feel the light and they feel the energy and they take it on. In some way, you might activate their light body or their DNA transformations, whatever. That interaction does a kind of quantum twinning thing, where for a moment your light bodies come into that twin relationship, and you can shift them into a higher level simply by being in your elevated consciousness light body state that you are. So it isn't just about being a nicer person. It's about being a more powerful person that can activate change in your community simply by being who you are.
And many of the empaths that we have all in common, it is the people, strangers, are going to come to talk to us and tell us the problem.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about it. You're an empath. I don't even know why people is coming to me and asking me questions or advices, because you're an empath. So if you change yourself and you change your vibration, how you feel and see and observe things, then you can change more people. The people that come and ask you for advice, you're going to give them a very different advice.
Yeah, I'm talking about, you don't even have to ask you for advice. They can just be standing next to you and they can feel it. Because when you're an empath, and as I'm sure you know, we have to be very careful about how much of our souls we give away. So when you're doing it on this level, you're not engaging in that, what can I call it? It's almost like it is a bit of a control drama, because they ask you some questions and they ask you some more and then they ask you some more. And the next thing you know is you're giving out huge amounts of energy. So when you're doing it simply from your light body and your heart and your soul, they are receiving it without needing to pull it from you. And it doesn't exhaust you as an empath, because I found that when I was empathic and I was working from that, it was quite exhausting because people were always trying to pull energy off of you. So it was learning to have that awareness of what was going on, and then just letting it be from your energy field, that they received these activations without them actually really knowing what they're doing. And that is so powerful, because as I say, you can walk, imagine yourself walking through a supermarket, just leaving a trail of light behind you. And everybody who walks into that light goes, what was that? Because they can feel it around you. And I think that's what is happening with so many light workers. They're becoming so radiant. This is also something I work with, is the Cathar teaching of the shining ones. Your light body becomes so filled with golden light that you become radiant. And wherever you go, you're just filling the place with light. And I'm very aware of trying to be in that energy. Of course, not all the time. Some days it's a bad supermarket day, but other days you're aware of the energy that you're giving out and people coming into that energy and feeling it, but not understanding. They just look at you and they don't really understand, but they're getting it anyway. And that is such a beautiful thing to be able to do, and to activate the shining energy in you through its whole process, again, with working with the masculine and the divine feminine, and bringing your heart into alignment so that the masculine and the feminine are aligned. And then you get this beautiful connection that activates your solar light body, and then you just radiate these beautiful energies. So this is part of what we do as we follow the spiral, the sacred year, and we go through the portals and we take in the light codes so that we can become more radiant and more, more effective as agents of change for the earth and for the new earth.
And I have so many questions for you, Celia. And one of my questions, it is regarding the changing the subject. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
Much factor information that I wanted to get about the angels. I have heard many people, they are angelologists, or they are working only with one angel and so forth. But people like you, you're a channeler. You goes with the galactic or ascended masters or delphins or you know, you don't call yourself a geologist, specifically only one side of the coin. And what is the difference between an angelologist and someone that is a channel for galactics and whales and dolphins and...
Sorry, I didn't catch all of that because the sound was a bit bad. The difference between a channel and what?
An angelologist. They call themselves angelologists. People that...
Okay, they only work with angels.
Yes.
Okay. I haven't heard that term before. That is quite cute. Are people who are working only with angelic energies, whereas I consider myself to be a channel. I work primarily with Archangel Michael and the Elohim family, but I also channel dolphins and whales and Mary Magdalene and Yeshua and so I am open and I do receive energies from other levels. I think people who work specifically with angels tend to work with the different kinds of angels. There's archangels and angels of that. There's such a wide field of angelic energy to work with, which is very beautiful. So I think it's just people working in different places, different levels, different energies. I don't think that one is particularly better than the other. It's just the same ability to bring energy to people.
Or is because it is socially acceptable channel angels and not channel dolphins or galactics or things like that, or even.
I don't know. It depends on I think where you are, because if you're in a Catholic country, for example, or a very Christian country, then I think it probably would be a lot of pressure for you to be an angel channel, and to work at that level, because channeling dolphins and whales would be considered to be a lower level. But again, for me, I also have worked with shamanic energies, and working with shamanic connections and animal connections is very important in shamanism. In fact, it's very sacred and very holy. So I wouldn't consider working with dolphins and angels and power animals or whatever to be a lower level. In fact, I would consider it to be just as powerful. And when I was in Russia, it was it was after 2012. It was about 2014. I was working with Russians who were mostly Christian, because the Russians are very Christian. And we went to Siberia and we started working with the energies at Lake Baikal. And it was there, Archangel Michael said to me, it's very important for you to work with shamanic energies, because in the new earth, people are going to have to understand that the connection with nature is not only important, it's very spiritual, that most of the animals on our planet are star seeds as well. They come from different star systems. They represent different stellar energies. And unless people understand that, they can't move forward. So I think just saying, okay, angels are superior and working with dolphins and whales is not. It's a lower level. I've heard people even saying it's demonic or whatever. No, I don't agree with that, because the shamanic worldview is that all life is sacred, and we all come from the same spirit, the same we call it great spirit. We're all one. I think the concept of oneness from Christianity, Gnostic Christianity, the oneness, it's the same thing. So whether you're working with an angel or a whale or whatever, you are channeling a divine consciousness at that level. So I hope that answers your question.
And beside it, in the higher planes, the part of who's more, who's less. The hierarchy in Spanish, it is
hierarchy. Yeah.
It is not. They don't use it. It's only humans that are the ones that need that to understand.
No. Exactly. I think the hierarchy of the masters is teaching that is for you, because we understand that we are all one, and that we're all part of the Great Spirit or the divine force, and so there is no hierarchy. And that if you're talking about angels, well, Archangel Michael teaches that we are human angels, that our being is angelic. And I recognize for myself, my primary family is the Elohim Angels. So I consider myself to be an angelic human. So I'm an angelic being in human form. And a lot of us are. We are galactic beings in human form or whatever. But I feel my connection to the angelic realm very strongly.
I saw that you were going to have also a class about the Scorpio Gate and working with the whales and the dolphins very soon.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about that? About the class?
The Scorpio Gate itself.
The portal. Yes, you're going to have a class very soon, right?
Yes. Oh, the webinar. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, it's coming up on when do we start? The 22nd or 23rd? I don't remember the exact date. But the purpose of the webinar is to assist people through the Scorpio Gate. So we're starting just before the first partial solar eclipse and preparing people for that. And then we move into the 11/11 and we go through that gateway and the full moon lunar eclipse as well. So at every step we are preparing you for what you're going to experience spiritually and physically. And of course, working with Archangel Michael as the guiding force. We have activations with him, which are very beautiful. I love doing activations with Archangel Michael. But also the whales and the dolphins are coming in. And this makes me very excited because I haven't worked with them for about 10 years. They are coming in now because they want to help us with this expansion of consciousness that we talked about earlier. So they're going to give us techniques and ways of working with the alpha state and the theta state and how we can move between the different levels. So I think that for anyone who's interested and wants to know more about how to deal with these energies and to do it in a community, because I work with community of light, we call the Diamond Light community. We'd work together as a group. So there's chat and there's I do notes for people. There's a recording available. So it's a very intense and beautiful experience for people who would like to make that journey.
And they can find more information in your website, correct?
Yeah.
CeliaFenn.com.
That's right, CeliaFenn.com. One word, CeliaFenn.com. And it's all there.
So like that they can, it is something that right now is going to be very needed. And the portals are coming. And we're about there. So it is important that actually we start understanding how we can amplify our conscience, and we can understand also how we can be the observer 24 hours a day if we're awake. If not, in our dream time too.
Absolutely. It's all a dream. Okay. Thank you so much, Monica. It's been lovely to be with you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you everybody for being in Soul Talk. And if this helped you, please give us a like, give us a review, and share it with your friends. This may help someone else too. Thank you so much to everybody for being in Soul Talk.